Hi, in this video I'm going to give you some advice about how to do homework number 1 about scatterplots and mean and variance functions. So in our course Moodle, go down to chapter 1, scatterplots and regression, and scroll down to where you see homework 1 R markdown file, and this contains the basic instructions for getting you started on our first homework assignment. So click on that and it'll say what do you want to do with this markdown file. Just save it to your computer to the downloads area, and you'll notice up here in Firefox it shows me that it's in my downloads. Then what I'm going to do is move it to my RStudio server. In my workspace area, you'll notice I don't have any homework 1 material. I've logged in as Anderson, and to upload that homework file I'll do upload, and then I will browse to the downloads area on my computer, and so I see that I have a markdown homework 1 that I have just done there, and so I'll do open, and I will do OK, and you'll notice I have that new file sitting right here. There's evidently a kind of different version of this file, and it has this extra 1 sitting on it, which is kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do is just click this checkbox and do a rename, and I'm just going to get rid of that extra parentheses, and I'll just do R markdown homework 1 John and do OK, and I have my homework file. And so I'll click on it to open the instructions right over here in the left hand pane, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. And the other thing I'm going to do to talk to you about it is right below, back on our Moodle page, there's a processed version or a web page that's already been created, and that's in this tab. And this might be a little bit easier for you to see what's going on. So in problem 1, I need to have you first of all change in the markdown file in RStudio, get rid of first name, last name, and put your own names right in here for first name and last name in line 20. Make sure that in line 13 and in line 15 that you've previously installed the knitter and ALR4 packages like I showed you in a previous video. Remember to do that. You go over here to packages and you do install packages, and in the packages area you'll put in ALR4 and knitter, and those would install. That's how you do that. So make sure you've done that before you try to process this file. Anyway, our first set of tasks in problem 1 is to give a brief description of the major differences between the fish lengths and age relationships for Camp Lake and Lake Mary with respect to the distribution of the fish length as a function of age. These are bluegills. And in your markdown file you will notice in line 33 we go out on the internet and read in some data from Camp Lake, and in line 34 I say let's take a look at the top of the Camp Lake data frame to see what's in it, and you will notice that on the processed version there is a variable called age in years, length of the fish, and then something about the fish scale. Back to the markdown file, you will notice that the first things that I'm doing in these first couple of code blocks are making scatterplots. I made a scatterplot in line 40 about the length against age for Camp Lake, and then in the code block for line 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46, we load a Lake Mary data set that is already built into the ALR4 package, and we do length against age for this data set. And in our processed file, you will see the Camp Lake mean and variance function scatterplot representation. And if you scroll down a little bit farther, we see the same thing for Lake Mary, as you have seen in the notes and read in the textbook. And the first thing I want you to do is talk about the mean function for Camp Lake. That means take a look at this dark red line for Camp Lake. That's a representation of the mean function. Please be a little bit careful of this last point right here. There's only one fish that is of 7 years of age, and so the mean function is drawn right towards that. I don't think it's a very wise thing for you to say that the fish get shorter when they get to age 7. This is just an artifact of one single value, and so you should probably not overread or overanalyze this one case, nor this one fish down here that's only 1 year of age. Try to use the data display where there's a sufficient amount of data to really make a judgment about the mean function. So what I'm looking for is for you to write in the markdown file. I'm looking for you to write something, a description about the mean function for Camp Lake. So you might write something like the mean function shows a decreasing relationship. That would not be correct, but that's an example of what you might say about the relationship between age and length. So talk about the fact that it's increasing or decreasing. So talk about the direction of association, if I could type, and is the relationship linear or curved from your viewing of the graph. So talk about things like that. Do the same thing for the plot for Lake Mary. Talk about the direction of the association and the linearity or curvature that you see in the mean function. In the second part of the question, I want you to talk about the variation in Camp Lake and Lake Mary with a comment about how those variation functions are similar or different between the two lakes. Same thing in part A. I want you to talk about how the mean functions are similar or different. There's 2 points for each part of that problem. In problem 2, we load in the markdown file. In problem 2, we load in some ozone data from a place in a data file on the internet. Ozone.txt is a data file out in the internet, and this command reads those data into a data object in R called ozone, and we make a scatter plot relating ozone concentration to temperature. And what I want you to do from the display is to talk about the mean function and the variance function. Give a description using the terms that we've learned about in this class. So take a look at this graph. The data are from ozone concentrations in the Los Angeles metropolitan area. Talk about how ozone changes with temperature using the dark mean function, and talk about what this variance function says. There's 1 point for each of those descriptions. In problem 3, you are asked to load in a data file from the New York metropolitan area about ozone and temperature, and then you're given a scatter plot with a mean and a variance function smooth, and I want you to talk about the mean function and the variance function for this display. 1 point for each of those. And then in part C, talk about how this mean and variance relationship for this ozone concentration is the same and different compared to the Los Angeles one. And so there's a point for that discussion as well. So once you have edited this markdown file, so for example, whenever it says put your answer here, you just would start typing, and you might say something really foolish like the mean functions look exactly the same, and you type something, and then when you have finished, you will just click on the knit button and it'll process, and you'll have your own homework assignment completed. And when you're finished, you will just go to the HTML version of this file, select it, and then go to the More window or the More option and export that down to your downloads area on your computer. We'll just save it to our computer. And then back on your course Moodle site, you will go to the assignment submission area and click on it and go down to the very bottom and upload and submit from the downloads area. And that should be the way to complete your assignment and get the written one submitted to me. Once you have completed the assignment and submitted your written work, make sure that you go to the homework quiz right here, the online assessment. Several points are assessed here on the online quiz. So make sure you have your processed answers ready for you so that you can answer the online questions that I have here in this assessment. And then between the written thing that you've submitted to the submission link and the points on the online assessment, that's how I will make your homework 1 grade and assess you. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions with that.